Welcome back to episode number 7 of the Triple Threat Podcast. Today, we're going to be ranking the top 10 point guards in the league, and we have a special guest to do it with us. We've got Nick. Say what's up, Nick.
Hey.
All right. So we're going to be ranking the top 10 point guards in the league. But first, let's start off with some honorable mentions. Does anybody want to go first with their honorable mention?
I have one, Ja Morant. He'll probably be at the end of this next season, but he's just outside.
I've got Kemba Walker as my honorable mention, but Ja Morant, and I thought that Spencer Dinwiddie and De'Aaron Fox, Fred VanVleet, also some guys that could get some consideration. But Kemba Walker is my honorable mention. Point guard's just so stacked that he was my guy.
I have two honorable mentions, and one of them is being Trae Young. He's just not on here. He's not on my top 10 because he just can't play defense. And then my second honorable mention is De'Aaron Fox.
My two are John Wall, because if he comes back healthy, who knows what he can look like. And I got De'Aaron Fox as my other.
All right. So I'll start with my number 10. My number 10 was Trae Young. His 29-9 is undeniable. He's going to be a scorer. He can pass the ball. There's obviously some clear issues, and his issues are the Hawks aren't a good team and they don't win, and he's the worst defender in the league, and his turnovers are high at 4.8 per game. When I looked at my list, I valued three things. I valued defense, winning, and obviously statistics. And I think Trae Young has one of those, which is the statistics, which is why he comes in at number 10 on my list.
All right. My number 10 is Jamal Murray. He had a decent regular season, but his postseason performance really showed that he can be a top scorer in this league. He has to become a better passer, less turnovers, but he's looking good for right now. I think I'll expect him to score possibly 25 a game next season. I think that's realistic, and he'll take a job.
For my number 10, I have Kyle Lowry. Put him on here. He can score decently. Really good defender, and plus he has a ring. And he can show out when he needs to.
What does that mean?
He can show out. What do you mean?
Anyone on this list can show out.
Not Trae Young. But, okay.
My number 10, I got D'Angelo Russell. What?
Yeah, I want to know. Like, you criticized.
Okay, give us your reason why D'Angelo Russell's on the list, because I don't think any of us have D'Angelo Russell.
I'm excited to see what he can do with Cat. He finally has a top center to play with. He led a Brooklyn Net team to the playoffs with no other stars. You add him with another star. Let's see what he can do. He already averaged 23 a game with 7 assists and 5 boards and shot 88% from the free throw line.
Okay, let me say this. You argued defense against Trae Young for not putting him on your list. He's not even in your top 12. Is defense that big of a priority to you?
It is, but when you look around the league, not many people play defense anyways.
So
there's a reason why there's high-scoring games.
So you're invalidating your argument that Trae Young shouldn't be in your top 12. And let me just say,
D'Angelo Russell has defensive highlights.
He's a horrible defender.
We want to talk about highlights.
He is a horrible defender.
He blocked Jimmy Butler for a game-winning bucket.
That's one play.
Okay.
Name a Trae play. I can't.
Dude, I don't need to argue about one play. You know, Trae Young's offense. Who's a better offensive player, Trae Young?
I told you his offense is on my list for a reason.
Nick, who's a better offensive player, Trae Young or D'Angelo Russell?
Trae, but.
Okay, so you're saying you've made bad arguments. You've said defense does not matter, and you can't tell me D'Angelo Russell is a good defender because he's a bad defender. And when we asked for evidence, you talked about one little block. So your hate towards Trae Young is
the Hawks were better defensively with him off the court.
Well, yeah, he's the worst defender in the league
so far.
But offensively, he is offensively gifted. Like, you can't deny that. And I just want to go back to your point about the Brooklyn Nets team with no other star. What is the difference between Spencer Dinwiddie and D'Angelo Russell? I really think they're both similar, and probably Dinwiddie's better defensively. And I think they also had Karis LeVert and some other solid role players like Jared Allen. I think that the Nets
They
weren't
had
like
two young players in LeVert and Allen, so that you can't really say they are who they are now from back then. And Dinwiddie was good, but he hasn't really made a name for himself since last year.
he averaged 20 points per game last season.
Yeah, like before that though, what has he done?
I just don't think there's. I mean, D'Angelo Russell wasn't anything with the Lakers. I mean, he was the number 2 overall pick and disappointed. And
But look at that team around him. How do you blame him?
Jacob, you can talk about that since you're a Laker fan.
We could have. I think it was mostly it was the Nick Young situation. We don't need to go.
Well, yeah, let me tell you, the problem with D'Angelo Russell is the stupid Kobe farewell tour. Well, rest in peace to Kobe, no doubt, but like the farewell tour Kobe was on, it messed up a lot of the young players' developments.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, I just don't see much of a difference between D'Angelo Russell and Spencer Dinwiddie and John Moran or even Malcolm Brogdon. I think Malcolm Brogdon's arguably better because of his efficiency and his ability to score the ball. I just don't think D'Angelo Russell really fits on
D'Angelo
top 10
Russell,
list.
he can take over a game. Malcolm Brogdon, he's the definition of a system player.
I mean, he was pretty good in the bubble for Indiana, and before this season, obviously, it was 50, 40, 90 with the Bucks. So he can obviously play. But, I mean, he's not in my list for a reason. D'Angelo Russell isn't close to my list for a reason. I mean, if you look at his stats this year, a lot of his stats were kind of empty with the Golden State Warriors for the first half of the season. They were really bad, and who else was going to score the ball on that team? Eric Pascal was their second option as a rookie. I think that when he got to Minnesota, the team was playing no defense. So obviously he's going to have high scoring games because the Timberwolves can't play defense. So it's going to be fast paced, high scoring. And that's what led to his increase in numbers in points per game. I just don't see him as a top 10 point guard. And especially when I think I've got guys like Kemba Walker, who's not even on my list, who definitely deserves a spot over him. And Fred VanVleet, I think, deserves a slot over him. And even De'Aaron Fox and John Morant. But let's move past number 10. Let's move to number 9. My number 9 was Jamal Murray. I thought that although Trae Young's regular season numbers are definitely better than Jamal Murray's, I had to give it to the edge to him because the Denver Nuggets were a good team, and they made it to the Western Conference Finals, and mostly because of Murray and Jokic. And without Jamal Murray's ascension in the first round and the second round of the playoffs, putting up those 50-point games, I don't think we see them in that Western Conference Finals against the Lakers, and especially coming back against the Clippers. I think that Murray's just such an important part to that team that I think that I had to put him at number 9, and his scoring and shooting ability makes him there for me.
Kyle Lowry is my number 9. Just because you have to respect him as an overall player and just what he means to the city of Toronto.
For my number 9, I got Jamal Murray also. I put him on here just to see how he balled out in the bubble with his 50-point games. And he came back twice down 3-1. So you kind of got to give the edge to him there.
My number 9 is Kemba Walker. If you don't have Kemba Walker in your list, honestly, I don't know what you're thinking. Honestly, it's all just the recency bias. That's why you have Jamal Murray that high. That's why Kemba Walker's that low. It's fine. But
it was hard. It's hard.
Recency bias. It's fine because we haven't seen basketball.
I mean, honestly, I had Kemba Walker originally over Trae Young, but I thought that Trae Young's 29-9 had to get him in there. But they're all super close. Like 8 through 11. Well, you'll see my number 8 guy next. Like they're all insanely close. Like you can't go with any of them wrong. Like if you leave one of those guys off the list, it's kind of hard to. And like obviously Jacob and Nick, they left off Trae Young, and like I think they're gonna have Kemba Walker, but I left off Kemba Walker in favor of Trae Young.
It's easy to lose sight of what Kemba did because he's playing with Jalen, Jason, and Gordon Hayward, and so there's multiple guys that can score. But he didn't have a good postseason. But to keep him off your list or have guys like Jamal Murray over him, I think that's a stretch.
At the end of the day, though, Kemba did only shoot 42% from the field, despite playing with all those offensive options. Although his three-point shooting did improve, but the 42% from the field is kind of concerning. Especially for a guy who's a volume scorer, and he's not the best playmaker in the world. I think he averaged only like 5 assists per game. So I thought that this year, obviously he dealt with a leg injury. He wasn't 100%. but what he did in Charlotte was kind of similar to what Trey is doing now, putting up empty stats on a bad team. But Trey's empty stats were kind of better than Kemba's empty stats, so that's why I went with Trey. Although Kemba, I think I can put Kemba over Trey and not sweat about it. Like, there's not much of a difference between those guys.
Well, it's not even just over Trey. It's over, like, was Kemba in your honorable mentions, right? He was?
Yeah.
Okay. Nick, do you have Kemba on your list?
Yeah, I have him at 7.
Okay. Sorry, you didn't have to spoil it. But yeah, just don't put too much stock in this bubble. It was a weird time for everyone, you know, especially guys that might have had injuries and all that stuff. But Kemba Walker's, what are we doing? You hear that? But no, Kemba Walker, he's legit. He'll come back good next year, and I think he'll revise your list into more of what it'd look like pre-bubble. So
I don't think you can like hate on him because his numbers compared to Charlotte and now. I mean, what do you expect when he's playing with 2 all-stars and he basically has a way better team than Charlotte in every position.
And the Celtics, they got the game 6.
Yeah.
If you care about winnings, then
I do care about winning. That's why a lot of these guys are on my list and as high as they are. The only issue with Kemba Walker is that his efficiency dipped this season with Boston. He was only shot 42% from the field, which isn't that great from an all-star point guard.
He didn't have to be the main guy in Boston compared to Charlotte.
I don't like
exactly.
No,
but you're efficient. If you're not the main guy and you have guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown on the floor, shouldn't your efficiency go up?
Let me tell you some things. Like, don't worry about the overall efficiency because there were games where he was very, very bad shooting from the field. The same thing with Jason Tatum and everything. I think we should just take all these outliers out and take more of like a median, like interquartile thing for their like averages. And if you take that into consideration, Kemba Walker is top 8, top 9.
It's just super hard because the point guard position is stacked and like all of these guys are super, super good and super close to each other that the reason I'd put the next guy that I'm going to bring up at number 8 ahead of these other guys is his two-way impact, and he's definitely a winner. So
I put Kemba at 8.
Well, Jamal Murray, look what Jamal Murray has around him. Like, it's easier for him to shine because
I know, but he was the primary ball handler or primary scorer. Like, Kemba didn't put up 50 points in the playoff series like multiple times.
Kemba didn't have to, though, when he had Tatum putting up 25 and Brown putting up 25. He just needed 15 to 20, and that team's going to be successful.
Kemba, the reason the Celtics didn't go to the final this year is because Kemba struggles. Not saying that one series determines everything for him, but like at the same time, this is his first real playoff experience, and he wasn't the reason that the Celtics were in the Eastern Conference Finals. Like against Boston, against Toronto, and against Miami, Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry, 2 tenacious guards, kind of helps Kemba struggle, and the bigger guys, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, were the kind of the reasons that Boston went to the conference finals. It wasn't Kemba Walker's doing. Although Kemba's a great leader, I can't deny that. He's a great clubhouse guy, great teammate guy, but he wasn't the reason the Boston Celtics were in the Eastern Conference Finals. It was definitely Tatum and Brown's ability to step up in big games, and Marcus Smart even.
I think that's reasonable, but once the regular season starts, and you'll kind of get over that recency bias in terms of like the Gad and Kemba and the good and Jamal. I think you'll just end up reconsidering.
I just think that, like, considering Jamal Murray's recent playoff performance, I think you have to have him on this list.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
Put him over a guy like Kemba who's been that good for this long.
It's just hard because Kemba in Charlotte was like nothing, you know? Like, he was just a guard who got numbers, and Charlotte was at the bottom of the standings every year.
Yeah, blame him though. They put no one around him. He had zero talent.
I know. I'm just saying that it's empty stats on a bad team, and now that he's with a good team, his numbers should have gone up efficient-wise. But
you can't criticize empty stats for when it's the front office's fault.
All right. Well, let's move on to number 8 because this is the other guy that I think these guys are super close. Number 8, I had Kyle Lowry. His two-way ability is just better than Murray, Young, and Walker. His ability to score is not as at the other guy's level, but his ability to play make, rebound, he makes winning plays, taking charges, making the extra pass. I know that sounds cliche, but Kyle Lowry truly embodies winning, and he's the leader of the Raptors. He looked like the best player through the playoffs for them, even with Siakam taking the next step this year and VanVleet taking another big step. I think Kyle Lowry deserves to be on this list at number 8. He's a huge reason to why they won their first championship ring along with Kawhi. Kyle Lowry embodies tenacity, winning, and toughness, and that's why he's my number 8.
Yeah, I also have number 8. He impressed me with his offense all last season. He had a really nice playoffs too, and the playoffs just highlighted his overall impact, especially the defensive end. That's what really impressed me the most. His ability to go into big, small forwards like Tatum and everything, and just hold his ground. And yeah, he's a good player, but I can see him taking a dip this year along with the whole Raptors team.
I agree. He's getting older, obviously, but I think he deserves a spot at number 8. Who do you guys have?
My number 8, I got Kemba. His reason why I put him here, I kind of agree with CJ. I think he's a little bit better than Jamal Murray just right now, even though Jamal Murray had his amazing bubble. But his 3-pointer went up, I think, about 33% this year. I think it went from like 35 to 38, something like that. But his downsides are, like you said, he's not the greatest playmaker. And then since he is undersized,
when you have all that when you have all that wing talent, you don't have to be the best playmaker. Playmakers are highlighted when they have a really good big man and then a point guard.
Well, I mean, he does have Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
Exactly. So his ball's not gonna be in his hands that much, and so they're automatically not gonna call him a good playmaker just because he doesn't have the ball as much as a guy like Luka or whatever.
I think the downside of Kemba Walker is he's not the best off-ball player. But go ahead, Jacob. Go ahead.
I was just saying that's also what I was about to say. He's 6 foot, so he kind of gets a little bit exposed on defense. Just nothing against him. He's just undersized. Can't do anything about it. But if he turns into like a Kyle Lowry on defense, then he'll be higher on my list. But I don't think he can ever do that.
Yeah, he's not gonna turn to Kyle Lowry.
Not at this stage of his career.
30 pounds.
That's why I said if.
All right, go. Nick, who do you have at 8?
I got Jamal, just because I think we're starting to see him come into himself and he's starting to be a star. I mean, he did go off in the bubble, and if we can see that just keep getting better and better, I think he's just going to take that next step and become one of the elite point guards in the league.
Yeah, if he can continue his bubble performances into the regular season and his efficiency, I think they were talking a lot during the playoffs about Jamal Murray, and one thing that describes him is his inconsistency. And if he can take the consistency that he had in the bubble and take that huge step forward next season, I think Jamal Murray could definitely move up on everybody's list. But number 7 is a guy that I had who was kind of tricky to place. I had Russell Westbrook at number 7. Westbrook was interesting because of his up and down and up this season. Westbrook, the first few months of the season, was not working well with James Harden. That's very as simple as that. He couldn't shoot off the ball. He was inefficient. And then when they made the Capella trade and brought in Covington, the floor was opened up for him, and he put up 32 7-on-6 on the best efficiency of his career. And then he came back in the bubble and wasn't the greatest player in the world. At the end of the day, Westbrook was coming off COVID, and he had a quad injury that he probably came back a little too early from. But I still think that because of Westbrook's inability to shoot a jump shot currently, and he's an okay defender. He probably doesn't. He might look like a good defender just because of his energy and tenacity, but he probably isn't that great at switching and playing one-on-one individual offense. But Westbrook's a tricky guy to place. Obviously, a former MVP. He's done it for a long time, but I think he's getting older. And with the Rockets, it'll be interesting to see if they have a center next year. And especially with him not having the ball as much with James Harden on his team, it's kind of tough because Westbrook needs the ball to be good. And that's why I've got him at number 7.
Yeah, me too. Throughout the regular season, I thought he was better than guys like Kyrie, Ben Simmons, even Luka, but the postseason, I just hope people don't have too much of recency bias to identify that Russell obviously didn't have the best postseason, but there's, like you said, I think there's contributing factors like getting sick and being injured, and people should not put too much stake into that. Russell Westbrook, he's going to come out motivated this upcoming season, and I can see the Rockets getting another middle playoff seed. Whether they make it far or not, I don't know, but Russell will come out. He'll come out ready.
For my number 7, I also have Russell Westbrook. Like I said, he needs the ball in his hands to be good. He's not the best shooter, I mean, that just comes down to it. Shot, I think, 25% from three this year. But yet also, again, he's came off Corona, and he had a quad injury in the playoffs, which led to his inefficiency. So I put him number 7.
This is where I was stuck a little bit. I couldn't pick between Kemba and Westbrook, so I have them both as my 7. With Westbrook, I just don't see the fit with Houston, and the turnovers and shooting capability just scares me because Houston wants to be a 3 and fast pace. I can see the fast pace part with him, but the 3-point shooting, it's a little too inconsistent with me. And Kemba is just Kemba. I mean, he doesn't have to have the ball in his hands and be effective, but playing with 2 stars with Tatum and Brown, I mean, he's still going to be a viable and pretty good point guard for them.
The issue that I have with Russell Westbrook, and maybe it's not an issue, but maybe it'll be interesting to see what their new head coach, Steven Silas, does. I think it'll be interesting to see if James Harden's moving more off the ball, because I think that would help the Rockets immensely instead of Harden just waiting at the top of the key, waiting for the ball back. Because if Westbrook can penetrate the defense and swing it to Harden, who's coming off a screen to a wide open corner 3, we all know Harden's a great 3-point shooter. His percentage might not be the greatest, but the amount he takes and the amount he makes is outstanding. I think Harden moving without the ball could really help out Westbrook. Now, if he will do that, we don't know, but that could definitely help out Westbrook for next season. But number 6, I think that's where you get to the next tier of point guards. I had Ben Simmons at number 6. He does everything well on the basketball court except for one thing, and that's shoot. We know that's his inability, but his ability to finish at the basket, play make. He's one of the guys that is the best at creating open 3-point shots, which is pretty important because Philly doesn't have shooters. The issue is they can't make them. So Simmons surrounded by shooters will really help him out. And if Simmons is willing to take the 3 next season, I could easily see him moving up in this list. And he's obviously gifted at the game of basketball. He's an all-NBA third team this season. He's a great defensive player, defensive second team. He could have been defensive first team. Ben Simmons definitely deserves a spot on this list, and he's at number 6 for me.
I also have Ben Simmons at 6. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. He's a dog besides shooting.
At number 6, I have Chris Paul. I know this might come as a surprise for some people, but all I gotta say is look at what he did in the bubble. He led that Thunder team in the playoffs. Even who did they play in the first round? Rockets.
Houston,
right?
Yeah.
How long? I think it went 6 games for the Rockets.
They won 7 games. The James Harden block on game 7.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah. His shooting from yet again, I don't think he's the best 3-point shooter, but his mid-range games, it was really good. And he has a bunch of young guys to help him out. But you just can't take away what he did in the bubble, which that's why I kind of have him really high at number 6.
Hey, I just want to, I forgot to put Chris Paul on the list. I'll probably slide him in at number 5 and move everyone back 1 from there. So everyone.
See, okay. Do you understand now why it was so hard for me to put Kemba Walker or one of those guys on my list? Because you know how good those guys are.
Yeah, but I still want to put over Jamal. I think that's a little.
Who's your number 10 again? Who's your number 10 again?
Jamal.
Okay, that's fine. That's fair. But go ahead, Nick, with your number 6.
Yeah, I got CP3 too. I mean, he gets traded the Thunder, the Thunder trade away PG and all that happened. So you don't think they're a playoff team. They're just going to be tanking and whatever. He single-handedly carried that team to a playoff with the help of Shea and Steven Adams. He has that effect where he just makes everyone better around him. And I think that's huge as being as a point guard. And not to mention his 3-point shot just shined in the playoffs when he hit the fadeaway 3 in overtime over Austin Rivers.
Chris Paul, obviously a great player, and that's why I have him at number 5. This season, Chris Paul was, I think, All-NBA second team. Might have been All-NBA third team. But he definitely deserved it this year. He had a rebound year with Oklahoma City. He went on a vegan diet, and he looked like a completely different player. He looked like he still had 2 or 3 years of being in his prime again. And he's actually a positive asset now for OKC. They might be able to get a pick for him. But the team was just terrible when he wasn't on the court during the regular season and during the playoffs. And he was one of the best crunch time players in the fourth quarter this season. During crunch time, he had a plus 109 plus minus through the entire season. It's pretty clear that Chris Paul is a winner and he's going to get you the playoffs. Obviously, he's had injury history. Otherwise, he might have been to the finals with Houston and Harden being in that Warriors team. But Chris Paul definitely had a bounce back season, and he's also a decent defender compared to the rest of the guys on this list, although he's older, but he can still play defense, and that's why he's at my number 5.
Okay. So my actual number 5 is Chris Paul, but he's not on this list, so didn't have to do it to him. But Trae Young, number 5. You guys, especially you, Nick, you can call out a defense all you want and keep him off your list and that's blasphemous, first of all. But PER, he's number 14 in the league, and it was top 5 amongst point guards. And PER measures offense and defense. So, I mean, if you believe in stats a little bit, I do to an extent, but obviously you can't. That's not your sole argument. But 3-point shooting, he's elite. Passing, he's elite. Turnovers, he'll cut those down with more experience. And yeah, I'm excited to see who they draft or if they make any sort of trades for a veteran or anything. But this Hawks team, they're making the playoffs. And once Trae gets into the playoffs, he'll get the respect he deserves. So I'm not worried.
I think he can definitely move up my list if he makes the playoffs because my 3 things were stats, defense, winning, and obviously he's not a good defender, and the Hawks haven't done anything yet. But if he was putting up the 29-9 and was winning, he'd definitely be ahead of Jamal Murray. He'd definitely be ahead of Kyle Lowry. He'd at least be at 8. He might pass Russell Westbrook, but I think if he starts winning, he can definitely move up.
Look at his team around him. Were you expecting playoffs?
No, but I do take the extent that his defensive win shares and defensive blocks plus minus is the worst in the league. I do take that into account.
I think it's a bad argument to say just because he hasn't made the playoffs because you can't base a player solely on their team around them. You're basically part of your rankings based on whoever these players have them around them. And you're not going to win with Hunter and Reddish are decent, but they're 2 rookies. Kevin Herter.
They have John Collins though, who averages 20.
He was suspended. Yeah. Clint Capella didn't play with him yet. It's just hard. Yeah. It's hard because Trae's obviously he's offensively gifted. We all know this. It's just his defense is suspect, and his 29-9 might go down if he was part of a winning team because other guys would be getting more shots and other guys would be more efficient. It would help Trae Young's efficiency too, which is why if the Hawks can become a winning team, Trae will elevate as a player.
I just want to see what they do this year with a fully healthy team with John Collins coming back and adding a rim protector and Clint Capella.
Nick, well, can you realize that having Trae Young off your list is pretty absurd at all? He wasn't even in your honorable mention. You had John Wall over him, and
he was, but people already said him, so I didn't want to say him.
Well, if Trae Young's a better offensive player, like I said, than D'Angelo Russell, and their defense is about the same, but you still have D'Angelo Russell on your list, it's personal bias towards the Timberwolves. Maybe I have some personal bias towards Trae Young, but he deserves to be on the list.
I mean, I had him on mine, so
you guys had him too low. You can't.
He's on my honorable mention.
It was just it's like, can you put him over? I can't put him over Kyle Lowry or Russell Westbrook or Ben Simmons or any of these guys. That's my issue with it.
Well, Trae Young can give you 40 right in your face. You can play perfect defense on him all night, and he can drop 15 dimes if he wanted to.
Yeah, but he could give up 55 on the other end. That's
it's not all him. Dude, point guard defense is so overrated in the NBA. It's much more indicative to look at the big men, how they can switch on these smaller guards.
Well, if we're looking at these guards, Ben Simmons can switch 1 through 5. Chris Paul can deny the ball. Kyle Lowry, you said it earlier, he was guarding Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown in the post. There's guards that can switch and make an impact. It's just Trae Young. If I'm a team, I'm attacking whoever Trae Young's guarding. I'm gonna be honest with you. He's the guy I'm gonna put on.
Point guard defense you guys shouldn't be putting too much stock into it because it's not as important as, say, wing defending or big men being able to switch and stuff.
That's just my opinion. But who do you guys have at number 5?
Okay, Craig. Go ahead.
For my number 5, I have Kyrie. Even though he only played 20 games last year, I think you have to take into account what he's going to do with him a healthy KD. I feel like they're just going to take over the Eastern Conference. Maybe not take over, but they're going to be one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. His playmaking's elite. The only problem with Kyrie is if he can stay healthy and if he can limit all the drama he has.
Yeah, I agree. I also have Kyrie at 5. He's the best rim finishing point guard in the league. His handles are elite. It's just, can he stay healthy? And when he's healthy, he's easily a top 5 point guard in the league. It's just, what Kyrie are we going to get next year?
It's a huge factor to the Nets' success next year.
Yeah.
I have Kyrie at 4, for kind of the same reasons you guys have. Obviously, he's naturally talented. It's a question of how much he affects winning, because obviously Boston's got better when he left. Brooklyn was better when he didn't play, but with Kevin Durant back, it'll be interesting. Obviously, Kyrie's got natural talent, and that's why I have him at number 4. But it's kind of hard to rank Kyrie based on the 20 games, and we'll see if he can make an impact and see if he can emerge himself as kind of a guy in the Damian Lillard, Luka Doncic category.
Okay, I have Kyrie at 4 too, and it's a little difficult for me being a Celtics fan, not agreeing with what he's in the media. You know, he's a headache, but it's undeniable. He's arguably, like, in terms of like talent wise, you could argue he's the best point guard in the NBA, like potentially talent wise. His shot, he'll shoot around 38% from 3. That'll be pretty elite. He'll have about 6 assists, mid-20 scorer, and they're gonna win a lot of games because of Kyrie. I really think he's gonna break out this year.
They just gotta get healthy.
For my number 4, I have Ben Simmons. 6'10" point guard. He's elite. The only thing he's not really good at is shooting. He can split 1 through 5. The only problem is he at shooting, and yet again, the 76ers are not the best 3-points. I know I just said that already, kind of repeated myself, but you mentioned it before.
Yeah, I just also have Simmons at 4. I mean, there's nothing much to say. He's unique. He's like, what is he, like 6'8" as a point guard?
6'10", yeah.
Yeah, 6'10". He can guard 1 through 5. The only thing is shooting, but when you have shooters around him, you don't have to worry about that. It's just Philly struggles to stay consistent.
Yep. Number 3, I've got Luka Doncic, all NBA first team guard this season, 29, 9, and 9. Great playmaker. He generates the most corner threes in the league, wide open corner threes in the league, and that's really important for a team that gets a lot of their scoring from corner threes with Tim Hardaway Jr., Dorian Finney-Smith, Seth Curry, Maxi Kleber, Trey Burke, even Porzingis. There's a lot of guys that can shoot that wide open corner 3 for Dallas. He's obviously a great rebounding guard. He's 9 rebounds per game, led all guards. And before he got hurt, and there's a real chance that he was going to average a 30-point triple-double as a sophomore in the NBA, which is just insane. He was 4th in the league in PER out of all players. Luka Doncic definitely deserves his number 3 spot for me.
I also have Luka Doncic at number 3. He's a great player, undeniably. I'm not even gonna bring Trae Young into this debate, but a lot of
great trade.
Luka, he was very good throughout the entire regular season, and he carried it on to the playoffs too, and that should be valued. But with the current landscape of the Western Conference and his team, don't be surprised to see Luka's ranking go more towards 5, in my opinion, because not having Porzingis there, I think they complement each other well. Porzingis could miss the first 3 weeks of the season. That would be hurt. And I don't think they're going to win that many games, honestly, with Golden State getting back, all these other teams getting healthy again. So, I mean, if he's not winning, then I guess people won't look at him the same. Part of the reason why a lot of people liked him is because he's in his sophomore year and he carried them to the playoffs and everything. But I don't value his assists as much since like they're all passes to corner threes and any team can do that. It just depends on if the guy can make the shot or not. But he's legit though, so he'll be good.
Number 3, and that'll be Luka. He can do basically everything on the floor. Only downside to him is his 3-point shooting is not the best shoot. He shot 31%. And he's, I think, one of the only players under 21 to get like 20 triple doubles, something like that. It's crazy. Sophomore year. Luka's a beast.
I got Dame as my number 3. Just because we know what he is in the playoffs, but his team barely made the playoffs this year, but I don't blame him because of injuries and stuff. But I think his numbers will go down a bit when they're fully healthy, and I just don't see him above the other 2 that I have.
So one thing that I wanted to point out about Luka, in the Mavericks in general, he shot 36% of the bubble on 6 attempts a game from 3, which is pretty damn good.
6 games.
I know it's a small sample size, but if he can carry that into the regular season, that'll just make him immensely better. One thing about Dallas that I want to go back to CJ's point about Dallas winning less games. Dallas was one of the teams that blew the most leads in the fourth quarter. They kind of had struggle closing games, which is kind of suspected from a young team. But if Dallas can mature enough to close those games out, I think Dallas can maintain what they're doing, and I think they can honestly elevate themselves to like the Houston level, the Nuggets level, maybe the Warriors, depending on where the Warriors are next season. I think that Dallas could be around that crop of teams, but it'll be interesting. Obviously, Porzingis might miss the first few weeks of the season, which definitely hurts. If they had a healthy Porzingis, I think I'd be more convinced. But Porzingis is always a question mark with his health. But Dallas is definitely legit. Luka's legit, and you can't question that.
Let me ask you, how are they going to get to the middle of the seeds with Curry coming back, Clay coming back for the Warriors, as well as Portland getting healthier? I can see Portland coming a middle seed again.
I think they're better than Utah. I think OKC will fall out. So that's 2 seeds down. I do see Golden State. I don't know. Portland's a question mark because they don't have the depth they used to have. If Melo comes back, that'll help them with that. They have Gary Trent. Ronnie Hood should come back. Trevor Ariza was solid for them. But it does help them that they get rid of the Whiteside minutes and they're replacing him with Nurkic minutes, who is just way better of a player, even though Whiteside led the league in blocks. It's kind of obvious why. But I can definitely see Dallas moving up because I don't think that the Jazz are better than them, even with Bogdanovich coming back. Maybe Mike Conley will take a step forward and be closer to the Memphis version. And I think OKC is going to commit to rebuilding. I think Gallinari is going to walk and Chris Paul will be traded. So I think it's a possibility for Dallas and Golden State to claim those 4 and maybe the 6th seed.
I don't know. Like, part of the way Dallas isn't that good down the stretch is because, like, their shot selection. I'm not just singling out Dallas. It's a problem around the league. Like, just late in the shot clock in the fourth quarter, guys just want to hold it out top. And then Luka wants to take some stupid step back 3, which I hate when people do that late in the game. And those just aren't productive shots. And so if Luka wants to improve, Dallas in general, down the stretch, then they need to try getting the rim and drawing fouls during that time instead of taking contested step back 3.
In fairness, the top 3 guys in step back 3s this season, obviously Harden was number 1. Luka was number 2. Jason Tatum was number 3. So it's definitely a good shot for Dallas. But I agree that going to the basket.
31% from 3. I can't consider that a good shot.
But Luka's efficiency. Luka's better when he has the ball off the dribble.
Trae Young's more efficient than Luka. I didn't mean to bring Trae Young. I'm sorry.
But Luka's. I agree that Luka's stronger on the basket and he can bully other guards. And if a guy does help especially when they have 4 shooters around him on the floor, it's going to be bad if Luka's playing a 1-on-1 and then he gets the kick to a wide open corner 3-point shooter. Which if they have Curry, Hardaway, Finney-Smith, and Porzingis on the court, then I don't think you want to rotate off of them. And if Luka can play a 1-on-1 against a smaller guard, it's going to be a lot easier for them to get open shots in the clutch. I think I agree with you that Luka and the Mavericks need to go to the basket more. It'll open up their game so much more.
Ridiculous. Like, remember Karis LeVert tried taking that game winner versus Portland?
Yeah, they had like 12 seconds left and he just settled for a step back mid range.
It's because they want to wait till the last shot and make sure the opposing team has no chance. Like, get a quality shot over shot at the very end.
Yeah, I agree. But let's go to number 2. I've got Damian Lillard. His consistency as a superstar is what put him at number 2 for me over Luka. There was a one point where he was averaging 40 points per game for a month. Obviously, Portland struggled with injuries. TJ McCollum was hurt for a little bit. Nurkic was out for the first few months of the season. Rodney Hood was out for the entire year. I think he tore his ACL or something like that. Portland was decimated. Zach Collins was out for a while, and they got Melo. Melo had to adjust. If Damian Lillard, he was their one constant, and he's been their constant ever since he was drafted, and that's why he comes into number 2 for me.
I got Luka as my number 2, just because he's in a big market city, and you think Dallas is bigger than Portland, and I think we haven't even seen the best of Luka yet. I think Luka's finally just getting into himself, and he can continue to build off what he did this year. He could be an MVP frontrunner for the next 5 years, and I think Dallas is in a good position to add another star around him, which will help in the standings. And I mean, he had Kawhi on him, and Kawhi could barely guard him. And then they had to put Paul George on him, and they could barely guard him. So, I mean, he's elite offensively.
That's for sure.
For my number 2, I got Dame Dollar as well. Like as I said, he averaged 40 for a month at one point. His efficiency is really good. He can easily take over a game. Prime example of the bubble versus the Lakers. Dropped I think 50, almost 56. He dropped something crazy on the Lakers. He just has that ability to take over the game.
That's for sure. CJ, who do you have it to?
Damian Lillard. He's different. Guys that can shoot like that at that high of a rate, at that high of a clip, at that high of a percentage, I respect those guys so much. Their impact to the game it's second to none. You know, that's what I shoot for Trey stepping into next season. That's why I'm so high on him, to be someone like a Dame and Curry mold, somewhere like that. But Dame, he's shown year in, year out that he's a superstar, and he's finally getting the respect he deserves. You know, there's a big debate for a while, like Dame versus Westbrook, and a lot of people later said Westbrook because of the numbers and everything and the playoff success or whatever. But Portland's been to 2 Western Conference Finals. And people, I think they forget about that. And that's largely due to Dame Lillard. So
I just think with him on Portland, you just never hear about him because it's a small market team, and he doesn't get the recognition he gets.
Kind of like the Timberwolves, right?
Yeah.
All right. Number 1, I think it's unanimous here, but Steph Curry. I don't think it should be a question. The greatest shooter of all time. One of the greatest playmakers of all time. He got one of the best handles of all time. One thing that Curry does, which is so underrated and so underappreciated, is it gets his teammates open without having the ball. The way he moves around the court the entire game, 24/7, going around screens, looking for his own shot around screens. When Curry is doing that, it creates havoc with 2 guys going to run around that screen to double him. Wide open shots are open for guys like Marquise Chris, and in the past, Andrew Bogut, Andre Iguodala underneath the rim. Steph Curry, undeniably an all-time great, and he's my number 1 point guard.
I'll go again. Look at Curry, man. Sorry, guys. Number 1, greatest scorer probably of all time, shooting wise. I think it should be unanimous. I don't think I had to explain myself really.
Yep. Steph
You don't
Curry.
really have to explain yourself. It's just only negative thing is what Curry we gotta get next year after the injury.
I think he'll be fine, especially with Klay Thompson coming back. It's the greatest shooting backcourt of all time. They're proven enough.
It was a hand injury, you know that heals.
5 straight finals.
Steph Curry, he's gonna come out just different. You know that, like I said, I look at him as a mold for what Trae Young could and should be. That's why I see him that high, and his record doesn't speak for himself. You know, if he had a Finals MVP, he'd be even more looked upon as like a really good player. But he's still like He's really good. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I think he should have won the first one in Cleveland, and even I think it was two. I think the second finals against Cleveland with KD. I think he should have won that one. He had one bad game though, which kind of led to Durant winning Finals MVP. But Curry is definitely an all-time great, and I don't think there's any debate with him at number one. And he's probably a top 3 point guard of all time. That's pretty simple as that. He's special. All right. Thank you for tuning in to episode number 7 of the Triple Threat Podcast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Comment some ideas for what we should do next. And thanks for tuning in.